welcome to episode 4, where we ask panelists about the emerging trends and the challenges in the future. No, it's really interesting because we're almost coming back to the beginning of the conversation when we talked about, designing for longevity as opposed to obsolescence. It's the same in terms of recycling, reusing. That's what people used to do for different reasons, but it's like we're going back to that. But Ryan and Mansi, I want to just ask this last question to you before I ask you all to just give me your sort of future predictions or what you would say to future leaders. But to Ryan and Mansi, what are the kind of emerging problems that you're seeing, the challenges? I mean, everyone has touched on some of those. How do we find some of the answers to some of the challenges that we've heard here on this call today? But what else are you seeing? And let me come to you first, Ryan.
Yeah, happy to speak on this. I think one of the major challenges that companies are facing right now is the onset of global regulation, right? So we have CSRD in Europe, the SEC proposed climate disclosure rules, and folks are responding to that. Companies are responding to that and saying, how do I make sure that I'm going to have the data and information to be able to reliably report? But I would say that pivot that to say, how can I use that opportunity of a regulatory driver, something that's going to get board attention, to set up the infrastructure so that I can support a multitude of use cases and embedding sustainability within the organization. And so taking the opportunity that this provides, not as an obligation, but rather as an opportunity to really rethink the overall infrastructure for acquiring that data, managing that data, but also embedding that data across the company and setting up that infrastructure so that you can apply future use cases. This sustainability is here to stay. It's something that's going to be a long-term driver for value within companies. And I think the real challenge is, how do you take each incremental effort you're doing, solving the immediate problem, whether that's regulatory reporting requirements, but then also using it as a further mechanism to create the infrastructure, to create the opportunity to really drive a holistic approach to this, as opposed to solving one problem and then when the next driver comes up, having to solve that in a completely different way. And I think what I'm seeing is a lot of companies are seizing that opportunity and would really think that's a critical success factor going forward for a lot of companies.
And I think, Ryan, you've given us the topic for the next conversation, most certainly. In terms of not just waiting for it to be done unto you, but to actually get ahead of this and actually figure out how you can, obtain secure value beyond the financial value. We call it the extra financial value. But Mansi, let me just come to you quickly on any challenges that you are seeing as well.
No, I think I completely agree with what Ryan just spoke of, right? And I'll extend to the thought process. So most of the companies, in my mind, they're struggling with understanding where exactly those data pockets are that they need to capture to get this, seamless data backbone for all kinds of ESG regulatory filings. And it's not just related, not just limited to the regulatory filings anymore. Just because the state shareholders like investors, customers have got involved now into this, the clients are now saying that it's not necessarily an annual activity anymore. It has to be near real time, and that kind of gives the right kind of information to the right people at the right time, so that they can integrate ESG related information into their critical business decisions. Because at the end of the year, when you start collating information for a sustainability report, you probably realize that if this information would have been available with the right stakeholders at the right time, they could have done better, right? And it's kind of coming down to carbon taxes, litigations, etc. We've started seeing some of it even before mandates are there, passed out as legislation. So I think that's getting very, very critical. But as Ryan mentioned, I do believe clients are now seizing those opportunities. I see companies starting to look at that complete, holistic, comprehensive way of dealing with this. And that doesn't mean just one or two kind of technologies. I think it's the right culmination of multiple digital technologies that's coming here together to tie the knots for them.